A garden of pure ideology.
Yeah, just your typical Super Bowl car ad.
Or a hilarious beer ad.
Break was over 15 minutes ago, Mitch!
I think you're the best ever.
I think we're gonna be here a while.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. It's your boy. I'm sorry, it's just me, Cody. I don't know what my podcast persona is, or if I'm ever going to have one. But what I do know is that as filmmakers, we love it when ad experts join us to give a sneak peek under the hood. And something I've come to find most rewarding is when we discover that our counterparts on the agency side also happen to be good people. Good humans, if you will, because I don't know, maybe we'll have to differentiate the two at some point in the near future. However, my good human guest today is Matt Johnson, the visionary founder and chief strategy officer of Haymaker, an independent, minority-owned, full-service agency in LA that's not only won an Emmy, but has also been honored as Ad Age's Small Agency of the Year twice. Matt shares Haymaker's origin story, as well as insights from his impressive career from early days at Goodby Silverstein to the pivotal partnership that eventually formed Haymaker. We dig into some popular projects, such as their viral Proud to Be a Potato. That was the one during last year's Super Bowl with people in a field in huge potato costumes watching TV on tablets. The creative fun of 23andMe's Genetically Me crossover, and even how they handled promoting John Wick 2, which was one of their very first jobs. That's pretty cool. Matt also gives us a look into how they embrace bold ideas and the absolute value of taking calculated risks and why a learner stance is so crucial. We discuss the real-world impact of supportive partners and what it takes to foster a truly collaborative culture that consistently turns good ideas into amazing work. It's a dive into strategy and practical wisdom, and I think you'll find value in how Matt Johnson thinks. And on that note, Filmmakers in Advertising, episode 36 with Matt Johnson of Haymaker commence.
Hi, I'm Matt Johnson, and I'm the founder and chief strategy officer of Haymaker. Haymaker is an independent, minority-owned, nearly full-service advertising agency with an office in Los Angeles.
Okay, so I'm going to go in my tradition here. You have already broken my questions because now I'm curious about a couple things you said. It's great. Going to go in no order. It's totally undisciplined, although I have a nice list, but it doesn't matter.
Love it.
You said independent.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
For us, it means 0% or dollars go out to anyone else in the company. 100% of the money is kept internal between, obviously, my co-founder and I and all of our employees.
Gotcha.
We didn't take any form of outside investment. We don't have any outside investors. It goes to a bit of our origin story that we literally started with nothing. We had no clients, no office. I borrowed a computer from 72 and Sunny. And we said, we're an agency today. And then that was 8 years ago, and we're still clicking along.
Then I'll just glide right into that question. From what I can see, you've had a long career in advertising. And if I saw correctly, you started at Goodby Silverstein, moved on to others, eventually 180 LA, 72 and Sunny, and that's where you met your business partner, Chief Creative Officer Jay Kamath. Mm-hmm. And that's who you were just talking about, right?
Yeah. Jay and I met while running the ESPN business at 72 and Sunny and clicked immediately. I literally made a very obscure reference to Clear and Present Danger, and he laughed very loud immediately, and both of us said that at that moment, we're like, I want to hang out with that guy. What's that guy's story all about? And that was in the first meeting we ever met. And I feel like we've been inseparable ever since, and he's like a brother to me now. It's been a great time together.
You guys are at 72 and Sunny with, what did that mean? You said doing ESPN.
I think they had started working on it. And I was working on different business and was asked, hey, can you work on ESPN? And that's like asking, hey, can you have 365 Christmas mornings a year as a guy that's been a lifelong sports fan? I'm like, yes. I could not say yes soon enough. Jumped all over the opportunity, went into a meeting. It was a pretty serious meeting, cracked a joke. Jay was the only one that laughed and thought, oh, cool. These are the type of guys I want to hang out with.
Where was that office?
That was in Los Angeles at 72 in sunny LA.
Okay. I didn't know where their headquarters was.
Yeah, they were founded it speaks to their ambition, not only as business people, but as people. But they were founded simultaneously in Amsterdam and Los Angeles. And so
Okay.
when I started, those were the two offices. Now they have offices all over the world. But
That's
yeah,
why I didn't know. Yeah, they're everywhere.
yeah, yeah,
So
good people.
you and Jay were laughing at the right references. I'm curious, we're going to pop all over the place, like I said, questions wise. Feel free to stop me and go, whoa, stop the madness. We need to do this in sequential order. But this kind of works because this is the beginning of Haymaker. As you said, ESPN, pretty cool. What made you guys go, hey, it's time for us? It's our show now.
So I didn't even know that advertising was a job. I chalked it up to things that were like Hollywood. I grew up in a really small town. I thought people...
Which town? What town?
Small town Ukiah, California. It's in
Okay.
Northern California in Mendocino County. At the time when I was growing up, it was like 15,000 people with a larger rural surrounding area. But I assumed people that worked in like any form of television were like discovered in malls. I had no idea that you could actually do that as a business. And that was really what was shown to me when I went to the University of Oregon. And so that getting exposed, I've been exposed to some of the best, I'm a little bit older, but exposed to some of the best Nike commercials of all time.
Yeah, I guess you would be up there, right? Because Oregon, there's a lot of crossover there.
Yeah. And then I'm like, you can do that as a job? That's what I want to do. And coming back to how did Haymaker start? I knew in school that I wanted to own my own agency one day, but I waited for almost 20 years to find the right person to start it with. And as soon as Jay and I started working together, I like to say it was when I felt like my full creative self was really coming alive, as well as my strategic abilities. And both of us appreciated each other's ability. And that's essentially what we built the company around, was both my strategic and creative ability, as well as Jay's strategic and creative ability.
If you guys have a cool account, if I'm saying it correctly, why was it time to go? Why was it time to start your own thing?
Yeah, it wasn't even just that account. I had one of the best jobs you can have in advertising in the world.
That's what it sounded like. So that's why I'm trying not to like bop it on the nose too hard. Be like, why would you leave if it's great? But basically, why would you leave if it's great?
It really came down to personally about challenges. I think what my time at 72 and Sunny, without sounding too dramatic, I felt like I was reborn in advertising. And that happened to me because it was a place that celebrated the best idea, irregardless of where it came from. Best idea wins. It doesn't matter if you were a brand person, a strategist, a creative person, the person at the front desk that's fielding phone calls. Didn't matter. If you had a great idea, it was going to go all the way to the top and try to survive, right? Because inside the walls, I think our job is to try to make the idea as good as it can be. Because when it gets outside the walls, everything in the world is against it. Budget, legal, the world, culture. It's really hard to have an idea succeed all the way through. Same thing with film, I think. And it was a very competitive place. And I don't mean that like cutthroat, you're competing against each other, but through the lens of optimism, they were very good about, if you want to win, if you want to compete, if you want to be at your best, this is the place that you can do that. I loved that. I grew up playing sports. And I don't really see the point in doing anything if you're not going to try to be great at it. And that was very much...
I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So all of that's to say, I could have just coasted, to be perfectly candid. It was still a hard job, but I had a very good position there. I think, you'd have to ask them, but I think I was well respected. I felt that way. And yeah, if you looked at it from the surface, you'd be like, what are you doing? That's insane.
Yeah.
But I had an itch. I kind of wanted to see what I was capable of, to feel some of the pressures that you feel, that you can only feel as a founder, and to build a business. Both my parents are very entrepreneurial in nature. Even though they had careers, they were fearless in trying new things. And that's wired into my DNA. I still do that. But yeah, that was essentially like one of the largest drivers for me, was I want to see if I can do it. And you can always go get another job, but that was the biggest test there.
So it sounded like, from what you said at first, you stayed right there in town. So you guys started right there. You just stayed in LA. That's a
Yeah.
pretty big pond to say we're going to start from scratch right here with all the competition.
Yeah, oh, yeah, for sure. It's expensive. I had a mortgage. I have 2 little kids. Now they're not so little after 8 years.
Did you have them when you made this decision?
Yes, I had both of them when we
Oh.
jumped in.
That must have been kind of scary.
Oh my God. You couldn't do it unless Jay and I talk about this all the time. We couldn't have done it if our wives weren't all the way in. And we have other people other than ourselves to take care of.
Yeah.
And the first words out of her mouth were like, you have to do it. If you didn't try, you'll always wonder.
Awesome.
And
What a
that
partner.
was like, yeah, incredible. So the biggest gift another human can give to another human. And she still gives me, because it's hard. It's a hard business, just like
Yeah.
film and entertainment.
If you don't
So,
mind me jumping
yes.
in, how long did it take you to find that first client? How long did that fear window last?
We had a couple things really going for us. And I would say that if people are thinking about breaking in, there is something that you can do. We did a lot before. I gave 72 and Sunny 6 months notice that I
That's
was going to
nice.
leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was running a good chunk of business there from a strategy perspective. And I only asked that, hey, at the end of the year, I'd like to be bonused as if you thought I was coming back. I'm giving you the notice now. Would you please treat me like I've done a good job and not think this
Yeah.
guy's out of here anyway? And they kept their word. They're like, of course, it depends on how we do as a company.
Right.
I'm like, yes, of course. I understand that's part of the gamble I'm taking.
Yeah.
But they've been very supportive. And so I think you'd be surprised at how many people want to see you succeed. That's the first thing. The second thing was...
That's cool. It's cool to hear.
Yeah. So having 6 months to even a little bit longer than that with Jay, we prepared quite a bit. So we had our positioning in the market figured out. We had our name through some conversations that I had with others that I knew that had started their own agencies, that their counsel still sticks with me.
Do you remember any of that? I'd love to hear it.
Oh, yeah, I remember a lot. Yeah. The first thing was like, it was around, let's just call it around 20 years. I'm 50. I'm not worried about anyone knowing how old I am. But
Are you really? Wow. You're a young
yeah,
50.
I'm 50 years old. Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I turned 50 in December. But first thing was you've de-risked this risk with working at some of the better agencies in the world over the past 20 years. You can always go get another job. The risks of going and having to get another job would mean it might not be in LA. I might have to go move my family, that would be disruptive. I might have to go somewhere else for a different adventure. But all in all, You've spent a lot of time de-risking it. It's like you're ready and you can always go and get another job. It might be hard, but you could always go do it. The next thing was you've got to talk to my lawyer. And we had a lawyer starting right away, which provided an incredible amount of counsel for us. So that was really great. He's been almost like a consigliere, Tom in The Godfather, I would say, except his name's Todd. He's been an incredible help to us. And then I keep calling them, all the folks that I called before. And then the other elements are, let me know if you need help with systems. Let me know. It was never about the work that we do. It was more about the outside pieces. So I had folks that I could call, and I called. You would be shocked at the amount of people that I had called. Former people that worked in HR, people that I met once that I know were associated with the healthcare plan at 72 and Sunny. People that helped me set up a 401k. There have been literally a murderer's row of people that have helped us enact stuff that you need to do as a founder.
Yeah.
And then in the windows where it was Jay and I figuring out the work, that was almost like game day where you get to play. The rest of it was like practice. And then when we got to do the work, that was like, oh, cool, we get to go play today. And so it took us one of our friends helped us get placed in Adweek. There wasn't as many independent agencies that had started at the time, people spinning out of bigger shops. Now there's a lot.
Did you have to know somebody to get placed in Adweek, or was it just helpful to have somebody who right at the time said, hey, I can help get you an Adweek to get you guys started?
We had a friend that was in public relations that had experience with the press. Jay and I were never really big press guys. We made a lot of work that was thankfully reviewed by the press, but just our personalities, we were never really front and center in that regard. But we've had to learn how to do more of that because it helps our business. The press is crucial in terms of your success. And
did that first one Did you see results
Yeah.
from that first one?
Yeah, they wrote
Awesome.
Eric Osterhaus is the name of the guy. I'll never forget him.
Wow, you remember the name? Awesome.
Oh yeah, thanked him. Yeah, as many ways digitally as I possibly could. But he wrote a very nice article. Here are the guys. This is what they're going to do. And we got a call. We got a call from Lionsgate right away, and we started to help them with some of their work. And we worked
That's
on
a cool client.
Yeah, we worked on the release of the digital download release of John Wick 2 as one of our first clients. But simultaneously,
that was the first one.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Get out of here. That's awesome. That's
yeah,
great.
It was fun. Yeah. And then in addition to that, I called an old client that I had worked with at 72 that had moved on and didn't work for the same client that I had worked with, which was the Truth Initiative, the anti-teen smoking.
I saw that.
Yeah, they eventually came to us and asked us for some thinking and some ideas, but this woman had gone on to work at 23andMe. And so I called her. She said, hey, the next time you guys are in San Francisco, we promptly drove to San Francisco, said, we're in San Francisco.
Right. Yeah. I might have pulled that one once or twice. Hey, I'm in New York this weekend. What you up to?
Exactly. We
got on a plane.
Yeah. And then they said, what do you guys think about this opportunity that we have with Illumination Entertainment? You would think that the world of Gru and the Despicable Me universe wouldn't really make sense for something with genetics, but we said genetics can be really scary for some folks to learn, like, ooh, maybe I'm have a marker for this or that.
Yeah.
But it's also fascinating and incredible in terms of all that it can tell you about your history and your body and what's genetically makes you. And we said, what if it was, we had Gru go through his own genetic test, and we built this entire world around that in partnership with the studio as well as the folks at Illumination, which was really cool. So we were doing that and the John Wick thing at the same time. And those were our first
you guys
assignments.
got to work pretty quickly.
Yeah, pretty fast. But then we had what we called our Dunkirk moment, which is we rushed into these two massive projects for basically 3 people to handle. We had a producer friend, Andrew Tucci, help us produce all of those things. He now runs production at one of the largest advertising agencies in the world that's based in Los Angeles, and BBDO. And he's in charge of he's now in charge of, I think, of all production at BBDO West, which includes, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it's at least San Francisco, Los Angeles, and there might be another city, but I'm not sure, included in that.
Pretty big time.
He's a big shot now. But he was helping us be really scrappy and make these things happen. And then we finished both of them and delivered both of them. It was a massive amount of work, and they did really well. And then Jay and I looked at each other and were like, now what do we do? And we hadn't worked on filling any of the pipeline or trying to drum up new business. And so that day we went and saw Dunkirk, and we're like, let's go see Dunkirk. And then from that day forward, we're like, we can't have another Dunkirk. Like, we have to, while we're working, also fill the pipeline for the next job. And so,
yeah, I think you and our company's founders would probably be delighted to speak at some point. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of nice similarities here. I was like, Matt's probably going to think I'm corny if I just reference all these similar things.
Yeah, I think when you approach opportunities from a pretty healthy dose of humility, but also when you let people know what you don't know, I think they're more apt to listen to what you do know and what you do have a handle on, and where your expertise then can shine. It doesn't always work that way, but I think that's a nice way to at least try to approach it. But yeah.
I'm going to jump all the way up to the present. You've had some cool stuff come out lately. You know, it's Joel McHale, right? Is that his name? Yeah, yes. That was pretty funny. For Seattle Coffee, is that it?
Seattle's Best Coffee.
Seattle's Best Coffee. Yeah, those were funny. And I saw some other things recently, but I think, unless you tell me something bigger came, your recent biggest thing, you guys were responsible for the couch potato Super Bowl spot for Pluto TV, right?
Yeah, we did that.
So can you describe it? Because it's part of Paramount, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, It's owned by Paramount. It's essentially, it competes in their FAST category, which is free ad-supported television. It's their free service. So it's odd to think that it's new, but it's almost like television used to be, where you would watch TV and you would see ads. It's completely free. You don't have to necessarily create a login. You can literally go on your website, go on TV, go on your phone, and just drop right in. But they're a bit different than all of the other competitors in that their programming is still programmed and their channels are programmed by actual humans. Jay and I found that when we were watching the service, it has this innate ability to suck you in. It was like, RoboCop? Yes, would love to watch RoboCop right now. Or 3 different channels of CSI. I can't get enough of CSI. Yeah. And then you end up crushing like 3 hours or whatever of CSI to the maximum level of delight. And so that was really like where we started with the ideation. It was really a junior. Now she's progressed in her career and working on bigger and better things, but it was a junior employee of ours that really had the nugget of the idea of using couch potatoes. And we heard it in a meeting and there was a lot of ideas thrown around. And
can I take us back a little bit? Because
yeah, sure.
We love talking about Super Bowl commercials. So how did the partnership with them come into being? Did it come in because of the Super Bowl that you guys linked up, or was the relationship in existence before this last 2025 Super Bowl?
No, it was a pitch.
It was a pitch from you guys. So this was an open, like RFP kind of thing?
No, we were pitching against, we were asked to pitch, and we pitched against different agencies that were all pitching for the Super Bowl.
This is why I asked. This is cool. This is the fun stuff. So you guys got to go in, you knew you were pitching for a Super Bowl spot. So the game is on. So now I think that takes us right back to where you were talking about where the idea came from.
Yeah, we were in a meeting and we heard the idea of couch potato. It wasn't in its final form, but that notion of actually bringing couch potatoes to life was brought to us by a woman named Leslie that worked with us. And I just remember my brain shutting down in the meeting and not hearing anything else and only thinking about, couch potato. Couch potato as a good thing could be really cool. And then as we kind of, much like in a writer's room, we beat it up around the room. It was like, what if we built the whole farm? What if we leaned into some of the traditional Super Bowl tropes, like a lot of the old Budweiser commercials, where you'd be these sweeping kind of Americana landscapes, and then we'd use the farmers.
I briefly remember being fooled for a few seconds at first, too. Yeah. And for anybody who didn't watch, I have to do the whole podcaster thing for a second. Sure. Like for anybody who didn't watch the Super Bowl, the commercial has a huge field that's littered with potatoes, and then you realize they're couch potatoes, which are people in wacky, oversized potato costumes watching different shows on tablets, right?
Yeah, tablets, TVs, they're fed the finest content from Pluto TV, and that's what makes them grow.
Yes, so please, resume. Please continue. Take it back. I just wanted to make sure people knew which Super Bowl spot we were talking about.
Sure. So we leaned into the tropes of some Super Bowl advertising and how they play with different elements and a tapestry of Americana, and then basically brought that to life and brought it to life in a way that was all the potatoes were different because they were all interested in different content. But being a couch potato didn't mean you were lazy or non-motivated. It meant you were really passionate about what you were watching. And that's what made you like happy to be a couch potato. And we had seen in social media and other elements of culture, people starting to say, today I'm going to potato so hard. I'm going to basically order in and like just crush full 3 seasons of CSI or what have you. And so we knew that it was like, much like a lot of things in culture, people were starting to play with it in a way that was taking something that most people would think was negative and making it positive. And that was essentially like what led to the idea.
Yeah.
And then in making the costumes, what we pitched in addition to the Super Bowl work, it was some of their ask was like, how does it live on beyond just the Super Bowl? It's a major investment. What else can we do that would make it last? And we said, once you establish these characters, you can really build a world around them.
Yeah.
And a company named Legacy Effects that makes like all the costumes for The Mandalorian, they built these potatoes for us specifically. And then Paramount owns those costumes, and we use them to do a whole summer of cinema campaign. And then we used them to make another campaign around genre and what people really liked about genre. And we threw out an idea, was like, what if we got Gary Sinise because he's in all
saw
of the
that.
CSI. He's in CSI
Yeah.
New York. Like, what if we got him to be a couch potato saying that he likes to watch CSI New York?
Yeah.
And he said yes. And so we ended up making, in addition to his films, we made a whole host of other films that talked about true crime and reality TV. And it was because Pluto has all of that stuff as well. It was really cool.
So you are the chief strategy officer. I'm curious to know, you said that you were, my words, not yours, I'm paraphrasing, smitten, infatuated with this idea. You were into it. Is there a thing that you bring, whether it's you, Matt, or you, Matt, that you inject into Haymaker, where you're like, I love this idea, and now here's our thing that we bring to our projects that we're bringing in with this? Is that making sense so far? I have my own little goofy little private things for creativity that I write down. I'm like, well, if I'm going to do something, it has to have this. What is that for you? And were you able to incorporate it in this? Is there like a ideology or something that you try to inject into your work?
Yeah, I think I studied improv for not a really long time. There's some people that have spent their entire lives in improv, so I don't want to steal any improv valor in that regard. But taken a number of improv classes and improvised over the years with friends and through work. And I think the yes and principle holds true to almost everything in my life. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I really believe that the best talents in our business, I think the common understanding used to be that, oh, you were either talented and creative, and that's why you were able to come up with all these brilliant ideas. I don't think that's true. I don't think and there are some, but I don't think it's true that it's one individual. I think that most great ideas are actually born through a nonlinear process that requires a lot of supportive, not like your idea is really good feedback, but people around you or an environment around you that the idea can build for as long as it can on its own with some help. Because once it gets out of the room, everything in the world is going to try to kill it. So when you're in a bad room, here's all the problems with it. Here's the problem with this idea. Here's the problem with this part of your idea. Here's why this won't work. The lawyer said this. Our client / the partner thinks this. I very much try to put all of that aside and just think, how could this idea be the best idea? What's the best form that this idea can achieve? And sometimes it won't even be what was pitched. It'll be a little bit of a zig or a zag off of that idea. Yeah. But I think it's in that grace that you give the idea that the ideas really take off and become what they want to be.
I know some people who are going to really like hearing that. That's a cool way to say that.
Yeah. So I think part of it, as a creative person, you have to surround yourself with people that also want to try to give it a shot.
Yeah.
If they're so embittered or they're stubborn in the way that they attack it, either technology or the world or culture will pass you by. You won't be able to compete in the current arena.
Yeah.
Or two, people are going to you're not going to get the variety of inputs that you need in order to have something that's new and fresh and interesting. I think as I get older in the business, I think I bring a perspective like I did in maybe the Super Bowl, where I'm like, oh, it could harken back to all the old classic Budweiser spots. That's something that I know because I've worked in advertising for a really long time and remember
it's
those
fun.
spots.
It's meta. You get to subvert people's expectations, when they're expecting a Clydesdale to come trotting around the corner.
Right. I look at it like it's our job to try to build a place where the ideas have the best chance. But then it's also sometimes I feel like my job to put the worst ideas, to be brave enough to put the worst ideas out in the room. Like, I have a running joke with Jay that when I throw an idea out and he hates it, somehow his contacts always pop out of his eyes. So I'm like, if he's blinking a lot after I pitch an idea, I know it's a pretty shitty idea and he's being polite. But
that's funny.
I'll make a joke out of it and make it fun.
My wife was the only person who did that. That's funny.
Just make it fun so that people know, hey, it's okay. It's all... Nobody shows up with just gems every day, but there could be something.
You just said something.
Gem.
Make it fun so that so that people can know it's okay or something. You kind of,
Yeah,
unless I'm taking you out of context there.
not at all. It's got to be fun so that people feel safe and know it's okay to dream and to think, what if? Otherwise, it's going to be all pretty much, very much fastballs down the middle that are pretty easy to hit.
I like
if
that.
you want
That's
something
cool.
that's different or unique. Yeah. The other thing is that the business is so hard. If it's not, it's hard to make things.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that people know, if they're new to the business, it doesn't have to be advertising. If you want to make stuff, you have to know that it's not a traditional job. It's very hard.
Yeah.
If you want to, I say, if you don't want something that's really hard, if you want to just learn a system, then I would be like, go into finance. You'll make way more money.
Yeah.
And you might have a more manageable life. But if you want to make something, it's going to be hard. It doesn't matter how good you are at it, where you are, what city you live in, how big the company is, how small the company is. It's one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to work hard as well.
Crossed into a lane of one of my questions that I like to have an icebreaker with, but in true form, I fell into a discussion with you so quickly I didn't even get to break the ice with you. I like to ask sometimes, what's your secret sauce? You know, when the doors are closed and you're like, okay, it's kind of close to the question I naturally asked a few minutes ago, where it's like, all right, so here's this thing. They want this. What's our move? What do we do here at Haymaker? And I think you've already started answering that quite a bit, if I'm correct. But if there's more to it, I'd love to hear it.
I think like asking what if, and also it comes, I think my biggest lessons come out of failures, and I've had a lot of failure.
It's always so cool.
lot.
I never tire of hearing people in your position who, you know, if they allow, we're here to praise you, who are successful. You know, you are somebody who a lot of people and up and comers would look up to. And then you hear people like you talking about all these failures.
Oh yeah.
So it's always
no problem
encouraging
sharing
to hear that.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear
Yeah.
one. If you have a cataclysmic one that you think you could share we could learn from, I'd love to hear it, because it raises everyone up, because sometimes you just never know who just feels like the roof is falling down because of some failure. And then if they hear it coming from you, it's like, oh, that could be on the other end of this roof collapse.
Yeah. Praise does not, it's a weird thing for me. I appreciate you saying that's really nice to say, but I don't feel like I'm a success. I think I have a lot more to accomplish before. There's so many other people that are far more
That's that cool
successful.
attitude, though, because you're going to keep going.
Well, I think it's got to be a belief. Otherwise, nobody wants to. I personally don't think, when it's in a creative field, like we've encountered some of them, when it's someone comes in and you can feel them feeling like they're really successful. It's not very fun to be around. But what I would say is, secret sauce wise, I think it's like asking the question of what if, and not subscribing to, we've never done it that way. That's not how it's done. That's not how it's done here. And I think Jay and I love to be surprised by people, that I don't really care what your background is, or as long as you are working hard and trying, then we will get to gold. I do believe that. Be a good teammate is our number one value. And if everyone's piling in, we will figure it out. And if we don't, then it wasn't meant to be. It's not a comment on our abilities or skills to do what we do. In terms of the failure, I have many failures, but one that really stuck with me, because it's wrapped in a lot of, I think, grace and kindness. And it's also something that I don't know if it happens a lot, but again, I'm a Gen Xer. So in the late 90s, I got my first job at Goodby Silverstein and Partners. And my boss went out of town.
I always love hearing what city this is in too, because
San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at the time, I want to say, don't quote me on this, but my brain remembers it like they were around 100 people. And they are by far and away considered one of the greatest agencies to ever be on earth. And still are. They still make incredible stuff. I loved my time there. But as a young guy that wanted to do well and was really hungry and incredibly naive, my boss went out of town on vacation or work, I can't remember which, but I was given a very kind of basic entry-level assignment, which was conduct a competitive review or a competitive audit, where you had to, I was working on a car manufacturer called Isuzu at the time, which they don't make trucks anymore in the US, but they're huge in Japan, and you see a lot of commercial trucks. Yeah, really cool company. And I had to look at their class of automobiles and provide a competitive analysis. And so I had an old version that a woman that had my job previously did that was incredible. She did a great job. I followed that and I printed out back in the day when color printers were really expensive. I like made these binders and had all of these charts and was really excited and just didn't ever get anyone to look at it. That was, my boss was out of town, so it was coming in cold, but I was 20, let's call it 23, right out of school, 23, 24. So I had some time. I graduated when I was 22. I had some time, but not a lot. And I presented to the president of Isuzu, the chief marketing officer of Isuzu, and a bunch of other people that were really important.
Okay, so they brought you in to present. All right.
Yeah, I presented, and page 2, I knew it was bad. If I've done some stand-up, imagine bombing.
Is this just by like faces around the room? You're just looking around the room at their faces?
Fidgeting in their chairs.
Oh, that's a terrible feeling.
But being kind, not like getting up and leaving or like closing the meeting. So what was probably a half an hour felt like 3 hours, and it was bad. And again, it wasn't that I shortchanged the job. I worked my ass off on it, but it wasn't what was expected or what was needed. And so at the end, the president said, Matt, I could see you put a lot of time and energy into this, and thanks for that. But I have one question for you. And I was
this is in front of everybody or after?
In front of everybody, including the president of Goodby Silverstein and Partners.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm on the stage in this moment. Yeah. And again, it sounds silly when you look at it from the outside, but I was losing sleep.
Not silly. I'm nervous.
This presentation. Yeah. And in my heart, I knew that it wasn't being well received, but I was in some respects proud because I made it. I presented, I got over fears. I did the work. I stayed late. I worked on weekends. And he goes, I have one question for you. I'm like, great. He goes, so what? And I was like, excuse me? And he goes, so what? Very slowly, like hit the T. And I said, I'm sorry. I don't know if I understand the question. And he said, we have all the charts. We have all of the data. The reason I pay you guys is because I want to know what you think, not just to regurgitate the information. So what?
Oh, wow.
And the president of Goodby, who's a really nice guy, led the agency to great success, tried to interject and throw me a buoy and a lifeline, as did another woman that I really looked up to that was a very senior strategy person, a strategy director. And the president was like, let Matt answer. And I was like, well, do you want the agency's perspective or my perspective? And he goes, I want your perspective. And so I gave him my opinion, which was, you guys are focused on the wrong things. I don't understand why you hold this advertising up to be so great and this advertising and some of our advertising up to not be so great. And people were literally scrambling, trying to like pull. It felt like people trying to pull me from a burning building. We got in the car. Very diplomatically, the leaders were like, in short, I will summarize. They were very polite about it. But they were like, that was not good.
Wow.
So we had to drive. I was driving a rental car back to the airport at LAX, then flying all the way back home. You know, it was long
drive home.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm for sure going to get fired when I go back into work on the next day or Monday. And they didn't fire me.
It's been really cool to hear your perspective from the largest 72 in Goodby. That is it. I mean, if there's a top 5, they're probably in it, right?
As well as some of the other agencies that I work for. Yeah.
And to hear about all this nurturing that seems to have gone on, that's pretty cool.
It was cool. It was definitely like, we're going to throw you into the fire. I think in some respects we try to do it, but we try not to do it where we want to see people fail.
Yeah.
But it did help me. I mean, I am 20 something years later, still talking about it. And it's not with animosity. It's with, I think, gratitude.
That's really
cool. So that one question, so what? You can ask anyone that's worked with me over the years. I now ask it, and have since that day, of every single slide I write as a strategist or word I write as a strategist in a brief. So what?
Yeah.
And what it means is, what am I supposed to think? How am I
Yeah.
supposed to feel? What do you want out of me? What reaction do you think you're going to get by putting that in front of me? And I think if you think about it in terms of film, it's like this actor goes over here and then opens a jar of almonds and then walks back. And so what? How does it move the story forward? What does it make us feel as an audience? And again, it was a very difficult experience. You would think, oh, if I read that in a book, great.
Yeah.
I'd get it, but you don't. When you're in front of the firing squad, that's when you remember. I really took it on myself to be prepared to present from that moment forward. So
that's
a lot
cool.
and I got tons of those stories.
Cool. Okay. So we win the pitch with Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
What was your timeline for Super Bowl between winning the pitch and Super Bowl? Do you remember?
I remember it was fast. I don't have the exact dates, but we
That's
had
what I was
made a
expecting.
Super
I was
Bowl
hoping to hear
campaign.
something else, but
Yeah, we had a Super Bowl campaign before. That was our first Super Bowl campaign as Haymaker, and we had a month and a half more time than we did for this one. It went fast. Yeah, it was full on, very fast. In addition to all of our other work that we were doing.
so you win the job.
Yep.
Now, you had this idea, which you said came from somebody, one of your junior people, the couch potato. So you guys loved the idea. You went in and pitched it. Pluto obviously likes it, and it's off to the races. Were you in on the decision with picking the company, which was Imperial Woodpecker, right? The production company, and then Stacy Wall, I believe, was the director.
Yeah, I mean,
of
it
the
was
spot?
led mostly by Stacy, meaning we knew Stacy's work. We knew that he is a former creative at Wieden & Kennedy. He's exceptionally well respected. And Jay and I have a philosophy where, like, ultimately, when we hire a director, we want another partner. So we're open to their pushes on the ideas. We want it to be a very collaborative and respectful relationship. We're still very much hands-on, but also respect that they have the talent as it relates to directing. And it's really like we imagine them in the room with us, beating up the idea and pushing to make it better. And I think, much like I talked about the respect that I had for Jay, because the best creatives in our business are incredible strategists. And I think the same could be said about strategists. The really good strategists are very good at creative. The directors are good, not only at directing, but also ideating and working with, and hopefully helping you educate clients and or talk to clients or find solves. So much of production is like, how do we overcome the impossible? How do we find the solve that maybe doesn't always get answered with money? If we had unlimited budgets, and even when you have a lot of money, there's still, those moments are still present. So people that are good teammates, again, comes back to that, and are committed to the solve, are the ones that we find the most, I think, benefit and joy in working with, and have the best product as a result after working with them.
Cool. So did you go into this pitch with Stacy already in mind as the director of the spot?
No,
Okay.
we knew that we wanted to talk to different directors. We knew we wanted a certain caliber of director. Again, it's not something that we really base off of their reel, but what we hear about them. Like, obviously their reel matters a great deal, but we will ask our friends, like, what was it like? We worked with Neil Brennan on the Seattle's Best Coffee stuff, and we heard it was a good experience, and we were blown away by the experience in working with him. It was incredibly collaborative. Yeah, he was awesome.
Are you
Same
able to
with
share
Joel, like,
what maybe blew you away a little bit so that we could hear?
Oh,
some
I
of that
think in
experience?
both cases, both with Stacy and with Neil, from a directorial standpoint, very collaborative, but strong opinions. Again, we ask for people to take our opinions seriously all the time. So you have to be willing to take someone else's opinion seriously, but open to pushes. Again, it's like when you find out that you're all like, hey, we want to make the best thing here. It's not about, I can't ask you about that because maybe my creds aren't as like solid as your creds when it comes to directing. The directors that are able to drop those barriers and make it more free flowing. Again, we're pretty experienced folks. We're not going to ask for things that we know are just insane and impossible, but we'll ask for things that we think could make it better. And they'll either tell us their opinion on why they don't think it will make it better, or they'll be like, what if you did this? And it's a new idea that makes it better for everybody. And that's, I think, what we got mostly from, again, both Stacy and Neil have incredible resumes that you could easily think they could be, based on all of their work, they get to do it their way.
Yeah.
And it was not that experience. And that made it, I think, the work better. And we still got all of the superpower from both of them in terms of comedy and storytelling. Like when we worked with Stacy on Pluto, he had this take where he's like, we should shoot it all like a documentary, as opposed to having anything staged. Let's shoot it all where we're just bouncing in the farm and having different conversations. And that was essentially how he directed it, and it made it perfect. The talent reads were so much different and better that even from like callbacks onto shoot day, everything improved. And that was his idea. Now, we could have been jerks and we could have said, no, we don't want to do it that way. Do it our way. And it would not have gone well. But our client was really brave and open to it. He obviously had the experience to make us that level of a suggestion. And I think, we're collaborative and open enough to it that we were like, that sounds like it's even better than what we had thought of. And those are the best relationships, when the idea gets better based on the partners that you bring in. That's what I hope everybody is swinging for, but it's not always the case. Sometimes people want to make it their way.
Did Pluto want to see any like animatics or anything of the spot before you guys got to shooting, or did they just trust you to deliver?
I feel like I think we did. I'm not really remembering all of that. I know there was a certain level of like testing that was involved. We made a lot of different comps and representations, and we were really iterative and shared every detail. There was no real ta-da, as opposed to here it is, open the envelope and here everything's solved. It was like they asked for it because they're smart marketers, and we also helped we opened the door. There's no secrets. Here's everything that we've got. We think it should be this. What do you think?
How much do you think you're checking in with someone like that to keep them involved? Like, how much is too much? Like once a day, once every other day? Are these check-ins, cloud documents?
I'm of the camp of they're entrusting us with millions of dollars. We will check in as much as we can before it gets destructive to the efficiency of us getting work done. We do need to figure a couple of things out. They also are hiring us. It's not like they wanted to do it all themselves. Like they're hiring us to make it great.
That's exactly why I was asking, because sometimes I found us in a pickle where it's like we want them to feel involved, but I don't want them to think they're being tasked with approval of every single detail. Yeah,
I would say that's where experience kicks in, where you're like, we've let them know. I think as soon as they awarded us the job, they were like, congrats, you won. We're like, great. Here's a rough schedule, and it includes nights and weekends.
Yeah.
We need to have you available. We're going to review some stuff over the break. Everybody shuts down from Christmas to New Year's. We're like, we're going to push really hard to have those times free, but we're going to be really clear and concise of what we need over the break in order to keep the ball rolling. And also, I think it's important from the agency's perspective to have the production company in mind. It's one of the things that, like, when you get the assignment, it's like, oh, someone wants to brief you on December 14th. They want to brief you to work over the break so that they can go on their break. It's kind of a signal of not really a considerate partner. It works the other way too. An agency shouldn't be like putting it all in the production company. It's like, we got to solve this stuff together. And I think when
we may have been there before.
We all have. When you make that kind of commitment though, I feel like the pros understand what you're doing and how you're protecting everyone's time and holiday. And then, boy, before the holiday and after the holiday, people are running a million miles an hour and really appreciate that we get the time to have a break with the families and stuff.
Yeah. So. This will sound a little broad at first, but you're a strategist. I think you'll get it.
Yeah.
How are you and Haymaker adjusting to, and these are my air quotes, what's happening right now? What I'm saying by what's happening right now is the landscape is in constant flux. From your vantage point, what are the most significant shifts on the horizon? Time-wise, I think people are trying to tack that down every day. I mean, you could just open
Yeah.
LinkedIn and see a lot of people trying to get attention by talking about what's changing.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you want to, I would say you don't need to address what's changing because we're seeing it changing every day. Obviously, we see new AI updates every day, people talking about how to connect with audiences. But if you're willing to let us somewhat behind your closed doors, as the strategist, what are you thinking right now? Is there anything that's on your mind right now that you're just thinking about that you think might be important?
Well, I think that I would say it's not the first time this has happened. So
That's cool.
having lived through the dot-com boom and bust, and I lost my job during the dot-com bust in San Francisco, having lived through the 2008 financial crisis, I think I was freelancing at the time and was pretty busy, but not crushed. And then, of course, being a business owner, when the world changed during COVID and everything changed, I think the biggest thing I would say is that you have a strategic business and happiness advantage if you plan on change. If you only look at how things used to be, that is a miserable place to be.
That's good.
It's really hard. It changes very quickly. And again, I'm not saying that people that have major disruptions should just I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, what are the tricks that I use? Because a lot has been disrupted in our business since I started, and even since we started Haymaker over the last 8 years, and even from last year to this year.
Yeah.
Rather than think about that, I would say, how do we change and how do we optimize? Those are not easy things to do, but when you expect them, it's a little bit more forgiving. And I think that looking outside of your own experience helps. So in that regard, I think the conversations on LinkedIn, and I think that there's some comfort that we can take when you know that you're not alone, because a lot of this digital efficiency is isolating. So the second thing I would say,
That's cool too.
The second thing I would say is that the things that are cemented and the things that last are really if you were going to focus or try to analyze them, that's where I would spend my time. So let's just take, in our business, we have projects and we have agency of record relationships. So think of it like it's a 4-month contract versus a year contract.
Yeah.
The clients that are looking for the year-long contracts are almost all interested in the same thing. They value sustained knowledge centers, meaning they understand that onboarding, achieving greatness, then deboarding, and then having to onboard again to achieve greatness is a lot more taxing on their people and their process than onboarding a great partner and then achieving success together for a distance. In production, a lot of it is, I would imagine, if you have a great experience, let's just use agencies as the proxy, but a great experience with an agency, that agency will come back to you. We come back. It's very easy to sell a director and a production company when we can say unequivocally, it was a great experience. And because what that translates to clients is they're professionals. They understand that there are going to be wrinkles. They were really kind. Everybody's up against it. We all have guns to our head. And in spite of all of that, they were really kind. And we made great stuff together in spite of all that can go wrong in production, for example. We still found success. It's not easy to do for a reason. So I'd say the things that are successes, you really have to analyze those, what made them successful, and then try to find that. If you were dating someone and maybe you end up breaking up, rather than look at all the things that went wrong with that person or what you did wrong in that, it's look at the things that were great and then try to find those things plus the other things that you might have been missing. It's a different flip mentally, I think, in terms of how you approach it.
Yeah.
As it relates to AI, I think that you've probably heard this, but it's not AI that's going to take your job. It's someone that understands how to use AI that will take your job. All of the stuff that I've seen that's been made by AI again, this is a focus group of one. I'm one person. I'm not saying that this is the authority, but it's just a redo of something that someone else actually came up with.
Yeah.
They just redid something that was like already done.
Right.
So I'm like, great. What? And I'll go all the way back to the junior employee that kind of came up with the couch potato idea. We use AI not to come up with ideas, but let's say to make a comp, which for the listeners, if they don't understand, it's like, I want Sylvester Stallone on a dragon, holding a sword, wearing a tuxedo. It's like someone has to make that in Photoshop. The great thing about AI is that you can describe that, and it was never going to be a finished product. It was just to give someone an idea of what it would look like when we all apply our art and our craft. The junior employee was not spending hours comping that crazy comp. So she had time to think and time to ideate.
Yeah.
And she cracked it. So I think in that regard, it's okay. It's just if Photoshop releases a brand new suite of tools that allow you to go faster and be more efficient, great. I am like, okay, but it's not where the answers are. And I think anyone that's made anything that still, again, that makes, understands that it's not delivering all the answers. That might change one day, but I think the answers that we're going to be asking and what we want will continue to evolve. It's not like we're asking the same questions today that we were in 1998 when the internet was 97 or 5 or whatever, when the internet was first breaking. So I think that just like when I started, there were some art directors that didn't really adopt Photoshop, and there were some that did. The ones that did went a lot further, a lot faster, but it wasn't because they understood Photoshop. It's because they had the talent and then they mastered the current set of tools. I think of it like that. You got to master the tools. The cool thing about it is that it's a tool that not only creative people can use, and by creative people, like they have the title of creative director, what have you, or copywriter in there. But strategists can use it, brand people can use it, clients can use it, production can use it. Everybody has access to it. And it's like, cool. But at the end of the day, agencies are still being hired. I think production companies are still being hired. We're still making things. What we make might change, and that's where we all have to stay somewhat nimble and be open to it. But if you want things to be the way that it used to be, it's not how the way we've done it for the past 5 years. It could be very quickly like that's not the way we've done it for the past 5 months. So I think people that are nimble and agile, I think are going to succeed. But again, I could be totally wrong. I'm just preparing to be ready to roll and try to figure it out.
We got over 20 years of experience talking, so a lot of us are going to listen. I'm going to throw some fastballs at you as we wind out here. Selfishly, one of them that I like to sneak in some way, shape, or form. Again, I'm consolidating many questions for time. If you could humor us, what's something, let's just say a good thing and a bad thing, that you see production companies and or directors doing right now that maybe stands out to you? And you've said some really great things about collaboration. So we can pull all the good things you said about Stacy and the other directors you mentioned. But it's always good to just hear it frankly, sometimes be like, hey, maybe don't do this. Or, hey, this is working right now. This is what some of the best people we're working with are doing. Keep doing that.
I think it's something that like everyone could do, which is, and again, I can't claim this as my own. It was something that I learned at 72 and Sunny, but it's really well articulated, which is take a learner's stance, not an expert stance. If you walk into every situation, every opportunity as a learner, again, you have expertise. And the thing that drives me crazy and Jay crazy is in a meeting when someone, most of the time it's a client, will be like, I'm not a creative. And I'm like, do you have a phone? Do you operate on social media? You're a creative person. Like, you might not have the craft that someone with 20 years of experience across the table from you does, but the concept, the conceptual muscle, you've got some of it. So like, you might have something that is really great. So I think if anything, one, if you're that person that doesn't have that title or maybe those years of experience, have some confidence and some courage and know that, you might not have 100% of the ability to get it all the way across the finish line, but you have something to give and something to offer that if someone is open and a learner like you, might help you craft it into existence. And that path is the fastest path to success. It's not, I have to become an expert and then the world bows down to my expertise. And that's how I become a success. The cheat code is staying open to learning a new way to do it and doing it with others. And then when you find success, you got to share it. Like, it's not just your idea. It feels good to like maybe tell your wife, yeah, that was my line. I do. Everybody wants that.
Yeah.
But the mastery of success, which again, not close to it, but I think when I see in other people, other directors, other spots, other agencies, other production companies, I'm like, that's what they're doing. They're literally collaborating at a high rate of speed, and they're finding group success, and they're not really worried about, was this person or that person. Yes, Stacy has his name attached, or Neil has his name attached to a lot of commercials, but I think they'd be the first people to tell you that it's not just them. It was everybody else that was in the mix. And those are the people that I think will help you achieve your own success. Like the fact that you would even think that I am successful, it's more of a comment and a compliment to the other people that I listened to, the other rooms that I was allowed into, the other folks that have given me really good advice, and all the other work from all the other people. We just happened to be a band. That's why we didn't name it Cometh and Johnson. It's called Haymaker because it shouldn't just be about us. It's about the collective that, is here. But that's what I would say is take a learner's stance. Even if you have a high level of expertise, you always got more to learn, and you'll be surprised you go faster to the next level of success.
I like that. You actually, in reverse, answered a question that I wouldn't have had time for, but sometimes I like to say, what's one piece of advice that you can give to aspiring creatives looking to break in, and some advice you think they could consider ignoring? And I think in some ways you actually already answered that a little bit. Now, if you have any more you could add to it, go right ahead. But I think you kind of started leaning into that a little bit when you were commenting on people's attitudes towards emerging technologies. And but hey, if you have anything else, we'll take it.
I would say make it. If you only talk about it and you think you need someone else to make your idea, I would say make it. Just go make it. It doesn't need to be the thing that's like, Broad City, for example, they went and just made it and they put it online and then the momentum build. It doesn't always even have to be that story. I think for your own sanity, make it and see what you could do to learn or get better. And you might hate it. You might hate it when you actually get to make it. And that should tell you something. Like, okay, well, I hate this. I don't want to do it. Great. You just learned something. Again, if you're a learner stance and you have a bias for action, you go and make it. That's great. Yeah. And then I think the other thing is like, know that making is the hardest thing to do in the world. The easiest thing to be in the world is a critic. The hardest thing to do in the world is to make something.
It's always nice to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people appreciate hearing that from you.
Even the critics make stuff. They all, whether it's dinner or a craft or their own jokes or whatever it might be, they're making stuff too. But just know that, like, even if they're doing their job or they have to criticize, and that's the other thing. Paul Venables, great agency owner and principal, I consider him a friend, gave me a lot of advice. He said to me, which I love repeating to people, is only the best of us get criticized, which is, man, you pitch an idea and then your creative director criticizes it, and then it goes to the next level. Then the client gets it and they select it and it gets criticized in the meeting. Then they're like, we want to go make this. Then it goes into the production company, it goes to legal, it goes back to the a focus group, and everybody criticizes it. Then it gets made. And holy cow, it gets made. And then it goes out into the public and the world criticizes it. And the critics, the official critics that get paid to criticize it, they criticize it. And the press criticizes it. Then guess what? Everybody liked it so much, it gets nominated for an award, or you're entered into an award. Then a panel of experts in your field criticize it some more. And then if you win that award, you have gone through so much criticism. Again, you don't need the award.
No, that's really great. I can't say that I've ever heard somebody walk that journey all the way through. And it's like the price, you want the Oscar, pay the price, get criticized that much longer, all the way to the end, all the way through that campaign. So that's really cool to hear it that way.
I wish it were mine. It's not. It's Paul Venables. And
thank you, Paul.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. But again, only the best of us get criticized. Do all that you can to, if you're getting criticized, you're doing something right.
That's fantastic. I'm going to selfishly sneak one more in with the last few minutes that we have with you. There's so many things I wanted to ask you, but I've just for you, what's one of your proudest achievements in advertising so far? Because you have such a resume. And by the way, didn't even get to finish too much with your Super Bowl spot. You did a great job. It's a lot of fun. It was fun to watch. I hope you guys had a lot of fun at the office. I hope that was like a victory.
Oh yeah, it was
Did
awesome.
it feel like a victory
Yeah.
on the night of the Super Bowl?
For sure. It's also
Like I just hijacked my own question, by the way, but terrifying. Yeah, take a few seconds to tell me about
you're
that.
like, oh, what did we score on the ad meter? Which of the press liked it? Who didn't like it? What do people on Twitter think? What do people like?
Yeah,
it's really, again, it's that a reminder. Only the best of us get criticized. Not everybody gets the chance, that opportunity to make a Super Bowl spot, so we have to revel in the success of it. I would say, what was the question?
I had said, I know I hijacked it myself. I was saying, what's one of your proudest achievements in advertising so far? I didn't know if you had any other piece of work or a moment that you loved that you wanted to highlight.
It's weird. It's not work. I think in founding a company, it's like when someone has a baby and we give them paternity leave and they have health insurance that covers it. When someone buys their first home, that's really cool. We were able to give them, and there's a lot of opposites of that. We've had to lay people off. It's so brutal. If I could change anything about our business, it would be the volatility of it all. And I think that's one of the things, again, it's changed, but having gone through that on both sides, I've been laid off multiple times. Having to do that's the worst part. But in terms of staying on a positive note, I would say it's the accomplishments that aren't necessarily like the end product that are kind of the coolest and most rewarding pieces of it all. That's the stuff that I'll remember. I think the work obviously is important. It is the most important piece of the business part of it, but the people part of it, I think those are the things that I get really, and seeing people exceed and achieve things they didn't even think they could. That's like the real juice. It's not only about yourself trying to do that, but when you're able to help someone else do that, oh man. And that's like what I envy about production is you're bringing people's dreams to life.
Matt, I couldn't have imagined a cooler answer, man. I know you have to run, so I'm just going to pop right in saying thank you so much for that. That was such a cool answer, and thank you for the discussion. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for taking some time to share your perspective and your wisdom with our listeners.